welcome to the MTR Network, and we are back for another Supergirl Super Tuesday. And this week, I am very, very excited because I like the episode a lot. so,
You
um,
don't sound so sure.
no, that was me. That was me being excited, but it's really early. Shanna, I am joined by the doctor, and we are here to talk about episode six, five,
Four.
four. Jesus, this season feels like it is flying by. No pun intended. Um, because it does feel like we've been in it like longer
Yeah.
than. Yeah, I don't know why. But I think it's because of the way the pacing, how they're developing the story. Like it just feels like a lot deeper. Like this season has been going on for a while. The title of this episode is Survivors, and mainly focuses on McGann and John Jones. They are not slowing down in terms of how they're pacing this. But the stuff that they have on the back burner, I really like how it's developing. So, what did you think of this episode?
I enjoyed it, but I am worried, and I'll explain that later. It was very entertaining. I loved that the entire theme was about survivors, and we got to see that from three different angles: John and McGann, Monel and his survivor story, and then just the general aliens on Earth
Hmm.
that are stranded here, and they're basically this whole Fight Club thing was a version of their survivor story. How are they surviving? How are they not surviving for those who are being kidnapped into this life? So I really like the theme. Daniel James Chan. I can't get my notes open because my computer's old and stupid. Sorry, Maggie.
Hmm.
That's the name of my computer. Um, I think his name is Daniel James Chan, was the composer, and just the music he created for the Martians
Hmm.
was so pretty, and it just drew you in. I loved that, and I
Yeah.
cracked up because James Marshall. I have to go back and look. Ah, my notes won't open. Um, was the director, and when I saw it was the Alien Fight Club, I'm like, I bet he did the episode Combat from Smallville, which was also an Alien Fight Club one. And sure enough, he sure as hell did. He was the director on that one
Oh,
too.
that's interesting. I thought
Mhm.
all the fight sequences of this episode were really, really well done. I
Yeah.
was pleasantly surprised, especially that fight sequence that happened between Maggie and Alex and the first alien that they tried to interrogate.
Quill, I think his name was.
Yes, that was a great fight scene. It was
Yeah.
short, but I thought it was really, really good choreography. Very close, like very close combat, but
Hmm.
they didn't do the thing that a lot of movies do where they like get in super close and it's like all like shaky cam. Like they pulled back and actually showed you the fighting, which I
Right.
really appreciated.
Yeah. That was cool.
Let me see. So
Wait,
I
what'd you think? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I actually really enjoyed this episode.
Yay!
Before
Oh,
we
sorry.
started, before we started recording, I did say that I didn't realize that there wasn't any Jimmy. Mm. But since I didn't realize that until we were about to record, since I didn't like realize it while I was watching, I'm not going to deduct points this week for lack of Jimmy.
And notice she said this week.
This week. Yeah. I can't speak for future weeks. I just
Well,
can't.
apparently it looks like next week is going to be Jimmy centric. So I think we're going to
Yay!
get they're going to make up for 4 episodes of lack of Jimmy next week with
Yeah,
Agent
all with all of the
episode.
with all of the Jimmy, which means they're gonna rush whatever it is. um, doing my man pod so wrong. Um,
Sorry.
but what I did notice, like right off the bat, because I pay attention to the credits as they're running. So I knew like from jump that we were getting Dyken Lockman, who must have the best like deal with the CW because she shows up on all of the shows.
Well, so I didn't realize she was on the 100 until because someone in one of our groups said, "Why do they always have her playing a bitch?" And I'm like, "She's not always a bitch. You must not have seen Dollhouse because she was sweet as pie in that."
Hmm. But
And
since
then when I went
then,
to
yeah.
double check to make sure I wasn't being inaccurate, I saw that she was on the 100. Isn't that a CW show?
She's been on the 100. She's been on she was on Dollhouse, the 100. I feel like she's guest star because there was a while when I hoped that she was going to get a recurring role or permanently be a part of one of the cast, but then her character got killed, and I couldn't. And then she was on Shield, so I couldn't tell
Mm.
if it was her like moving around or if that was always the plan for her character for these to be like short parts. I really want her to be on something permanently. But yeah, so she was on Agents of Shield as Jia Ying. Um, she was on The 100 as Anya, and most recently, it looks like she was on The Last Ship, which I don't know. She was on 8 episodes of that. Is that show ending?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know what that is.
It's on TNT. I knew it was one of those networks that begins with a T, and it's about this ship on a crew on a naval destroyer.
Hmm.
When most of the like Earth's population is killed, so like they're literally the last ship. Um,
Oh Lord.
yeah, but before that, she also was on and this show didn't go past one season, but I did enjoy it. She was on this show called Last Resort, which was
Hmm.
on ABC, and similar premise to The Last Ship. But it was about a group of people on a Navy ship, and they get ordered to launch a nuke, and the captain refuses to fire, and so they become fugitives. And
Hmm.
she was like one of the people that lived on the island that they like basically take over.
Hmm.
And Andre Brower was the captain of the ship on that one.
Oh my God, I love him.
Yeah.
I love him. She was also on Torchwood. For those of you who like the Doctor Who universe, she was in season 4, Miracle Day, which is it was because it was the partnership with the American broadcast company, it wound up being the worst season of
Uh-oh.
Torchwood. But she did a great job. And I mean, I feel like she kills in everything she does. She does a great
Yeah.
job. And I hate that. But then again, I'm saying I hate that I haven't seen her in something a little more permanent outside of Dollhouse. But then maybe that's how maybe she wants the freedom to float around like that. We don't know.
Exactly. That's why I was like, I'm not sure if this is because her characters are getting killed off of shows or if it's because she doesn't want to do anything more than like a arc. But I love her. I would love her to be on something permanently. Like every time I see her name in credits, I get excited. It's the same
Yeah.
way whenever I see Enver. I'm not going to be able to pronounce his last name.
I used to know how.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love him too.
Yes,
He's
he was
also
on
from Dollhouse.
Dollhouse. He was on Agent Carter for the past 2 seasons, as Detective Souza. Like anytime I see either one of their names in credits, automatically excited because if you've watched Dollhouse, you know like the level of like acting and character that those two actors can do. And I think that's why it's a shame that they're not on something permanently. But again, maybe they don't want to be.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, it's Jokai. Inver Jokai is his
Okay.
name.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna mess up that man's name like that. I also immediately saw Laura Benanti's name in the credits and got excited for some flashback scenes, and all we got was hologram Laura Benanti.
I thought we were getting flashbacks too, but I'm kind of glad they didn't because I feel like at that point they would have overstuffed the episode. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean? Based on what they
definitely.
wound up
Yeah,
doing.
based on
Yeah.
what happened in the episode, I thought it made sense. But I was just like, when I saw her name in the credits, I was like, "Ooh, flashbacks!" And it was like, "Oh no, just hologram." Laura Benanti, who, by the way, has had a very busy year as well because she's on Broadway. She was up for a Tony. I think the play that she's in is now they're gonna do like a one of those things where they do a broadcast on, or like you can watch it in the theater.
Hmm.
So
Cool.
yeah, so she's awesome for those of you who enjoy your superhero shows and Broadway. Just want to keep an eye. It's so funny because like I know Chris and Deepalm were well, Deepalm's cool with it, but I know Chris is like so anti this possible musical episode, and I'm like their their deck is so stacked. It
Hmm.
like when you're talking about like Broadway,
You
like
have to do it. You
you
have
have to.
to.
You have Jesse L. Martin, you have Laura Benanti, you have Jeremy Jordan, you have uh,
Victor Garber.
Victor Garber, you have Grant and Melissa both on Glee. Like I just they're it's actually so stacked in their favor. Oh, okay. So this is funny. I was at EW Pop Fest this weekend in LA. For those of you who pay attention on the Twitters and the social media, it was Entertainment Weekly's kind of first attempt at doing I don't it was a cross between like a convention and a festival.
Hmm.
So they had panels and stuff during the day. They had musical guests. They had a podcast lounge. And they also, because EW does book reviews and stuff, they had a few authors there doing signings. I actually felt bad that I wasn't paying enough attention to who was doing signings when, because I know Ed Brubaker was there. Anne Rice was there, which would have been
Hmm.
amazing because when Anne Rice barely does appearances. And there were a couple other authors that were pretty cool. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there for the Sunday, which also looked like a great day, but I was there for the Saturday when they did the CW superheroes panel. And it was Grant Gustin, Melissa Benoist, Stephen Amell, and Katie Lotz. So basically, like the captains, the
Yeah.
head of the teams for each of the four CW shows, um, and they brought up the musical episode, and that being a thing that's coming up in the future, and and they're like, oh, you guys are both on Glee, you both can sing. And Steven tried to do the like, why don't you sing something right now? And like Melissa was kind of like, okay, and like Grant was like, that's not gonna happen.
Like I am not your trained monkey, sir.
It was like it was so funny because like I was covering it not for MTR, I was there through another outlet, and I was kind of like standing to the back. Everybody else who like wanted to ask questions and stuff was like way up at the front, and it was outdoors. This particular panel was outdoors. It was hot, so I was like, I'm just gonna stand in the back and like take notes and stuff. Um, but I almost cheered when he said that because I was like, you go on, Grant. Don't make them do you like that. Have you? Because they had him like up there and tap dancing and shuffling at SDCC. I know he is not about that life. He's like, please do not put me on the spot like that.
Well, and it kind of makes you wonder if number one, Stephen. Well, we know that Stephen believes his own press, but number two, if Stephen thinks that Grant is more like Barry, forgets that Barry is
Oh,
just a character,
yeah.
Grant is a person.
Yeah. Grant is not about that life.
He's like, do not get it twisted. I do what I want, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to do what I don't want to do.
Exactly. He was like it was one of those things where he's not doing that thing where he's like being shy, and if you just clap enough he'll do it. Like everybody was like, "Oh," he was like, "Yeah, still not going to sing." I
Love
was
it. Yes.
like, "Here you go."
That's my future adopted boy.
It's so funny. Um and they did talk a little bit about they had just finished filming the crossover. for
Okay.
when they came for Pop Fest. Also, this weekend was Stanley Comic Con, which was right up the block from
I
where
saw
Pop
that.
Fest was happening, and Candace
Wait,
Patton
is
was at Stanley Comic Con, and I was like, no.
wait. Was Stanley Comic Con where Mike Coulter was there and Stan
Yes.
came on? Oh my God, I saw that
Mm-hmm.
clip. I was so geeked because Stan came
Yeah.
up there like if they do something you don't like, you call me and I'll get it right for you. I'm like, yes, Stan,
Well, it was so interesting because I was the outlet that I was at Pop Fest for. They were also at Stanley Comic Con, so I was basically the one at Pop Fest, and they were at Comic Con. And I was kind of like, if I had known that those were happening the same weekend, I didn't realize.
yeah.
Um, I would have like tried to do both.
Mm.
But I'm glad like that I did what I did. It was great. The so they were talking about the crossover. I don't know how much people know about the crossover already. It I do know that it's going to coincide with Arrow's 100th episode,
Mm.
and it's gonna kick off at the end of Supergirl. So it is gonna like I proposed in my four-way crossover idea.
And if you don't stop giving away your stuff, they listen and I
I
see
say
y'all better give my
I'm
girl her
just
money.
I'm just saying it's gonna kick off with Supergirl, at the end of the Supergirl episode,
So for
and then
all
go
y'all
into
that like to
everything.
poo poo, you better get to watching. Ha ha
Hmm.
ha. Gotcha.
I'm just saying, like we'll get to it, but I'll just say I think Kara is the least interesting character on Supergirl,
Hmm.
which is no diss to Melissa. She seems like very nice, and I think she plays Kara with like just the right amount of like earnestness that you need for that kind of character. But she is the least interesting character on Supergirl, and I think they're doing a really, really good job this season of building up the other characters so that
Hmm.
Kara is not carrying the show.
Right. So with that, that's a good segue. Can we jump into this?
Yeah.
Because I said I like the episode, and I put this in my write up. I love the different arcs, the different approaches to what surviving looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how you said last week that she was the least interesting? I really felt it this week. So when she was trying to give Monel the pep talk, and I'm like, sweetie, we don't care about your prom. And it just, he doesn't even know what a prom is. And it felt so flat. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt, and then when, oh, the best scene, because I actually rewound it. I was live watching with another group and I rewound it and then people were just saying stuff. I'm like, huh? And then it hit me. I was like, oh yeah, I rewound this. When Kara calls herself confronting Veronica Sinclair
Oh,
and Veronica
yeah.
looks so unfazed by her. She's
She
like,
was like, if you, she's like, I am disgusted that I even have to stop
have this
sipping my
conversation.
champagne to have
Yes.
this conversation with you. How
She
dare
didn't, even,
you?
she didn't even bother to put the champagne down. I'm like, is she supposed to just throw it at her? I thought she was going to throw it at her.
Yeah.
But I rewound it because it was just, I'm like, I know we're supposed to be rooting for Kara, but I'm rooting for Roulette right now.
She was basically like, I can't believe you made me step outside of my limousine. How dare you? This is boring
Right.
me. She's
But I
like,
mean,
call me when you have something real to discuss. Like,
right. And even at the end when she freed everyone with this really lackluster speech, and Roulette still didn't look phased because sure enough, 5 minutes later, she was like, yeah, I know people. Like I said, you're a safe bet. I ain't stressed about you at all. But that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, people, what? I don't know if it was this show. I don't know if it was one of the Supermans we were watching or some show where it was like, oh, he's out of town. Let's do this. Let's cut up. But people seem to be intimidated by Superman that they try to plan their crimes around his presence.
mhm.
They don't do that with Kara. And I kind of see why.
Yeah.
Because also during the fights, the first encounter in the Fight Club, when Draga grabbed her by the cape and pulled her to the ground.
Oh God, just knock the wind out of her.
And
And
I'm like,
I
Edna mode warned
died.
y'all. Edna mode warned you.
Knocked the whole entire wind out of her breath. Just gone. I was just cracking up.
To where like it seemed like it was hours later she was back in the DEO and she still couldn't breathe.
Okay, this was my like thing. I was like, it has to be hours later. How did Alex's hair go from nice and curly to just bone straight again? Like she put on, it's like she puts on the DEO outfit and her hair just goes bone straight. What is going on?
I figured she took a shower, blow dried her hair, and got into uniform.
I was like, all of that, like all of that to get into uniform. Like, I get like not wanting to be like in the office and you're like, I'm going out with Maggie dress. But I was like, my God, her hair even reverted back.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, and I think it's in part because they're trying to show Kara's growth, but I just didn't care. It's like, you know what? And especially because I've seen more interviews with Melissa. So it's not like she's being herself. And I knew that because I've seen her play other things, but I just hate that they have her playing a flighty 14-year-old.
Well, this was my thing because you talked about it last week, but it was even worse this week. I was like, if all the Kryptonians act like Kara, I can see why the Daxamites don't like them. Because he was right there. She's like, straight up snob. It's like, okay, here's my thing. You are the last of your kind. You know that this, or you and Superman are the last of your kind. You know that this man is the last of his kind. And like every time he opens his mouth to talk about his home planet, you're like, oh yeah, because they're blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Or look at me.
I just don't
What
understand
about
it.
my prom? I was like,
Well,
we
it's not
don't
even that. It's
care.
just like, you are over here, you're dissing the literally the all he has left is his memories and you're dissing his memories, like
Mhm.
not even. And you know that your planet is not perfect. You know that your planet knew that this was coming, that this was imminent, and they kept letting it happen, and that the destruction of their planet caused his planet, and you still aren't giving the people of his planet like any benefit of the doubt about
Right.
them, like maybe we had it wrong. I know now that Krypton and Kryptonians aren't perfect, so maybe we had these Daxamites like figured all wrong. None of that runs through your mind, Kara. None of that. Like we're still just out here like dissing his planet because that's what's hot in the streets. Like it was really frustrating to me that her character, who is somebody who's constantly like, I want people to see me like for my deeds and what I do and all this other stuff, is so married to these ideas of what these aliens are supposed to be, just and literally based on stories. Like
Hmm.
she's like, oh, the prince, like he was just this nothing but this frat bro party dude, da da da, da, like, and but literally says he was rumored to be. So you don't even know. You never met this kid.
And then there's the fact that immediately before we hear her version of events, we see him being very selfless,
Yes.
telling Monel to program the ship to get him out of there because Monel's trying to help him escape, tricking him to get into the ship. He's like, no, I don't deserve to live if my people are going to die, but one of us has to survive. So you
Mm-hmm.
go, I'm already injured. That's,
Exactly.
that doesn't jibe with Kara's boogeyman stories.
Exactly. That are little just made up, just rumors. Just it's just like I don't understand how you
And
do not see how messed up you are.
And and she starts in on this whole bullshit about how terrible, the prince was as he's telling the story. Because wasn't he telling them the story of
Yeah.
how he got clear and how he's very clear that I got clear because he gave himself up so that I could survive. Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a playboy. He's this bitch. Oh, bitch, shut up.
It was
Shut
ridiculous.
up.
It was so ridiculous. Like I was really frustrated by that whole entire thing. Okay. Anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, so we
To
got that out of the way.
yeah. On the other side of that, I think Chris Wood is killing it as Monel.
He is so much fun.
He's
When
so sweet.
I loved him. The Adventures. I could watch at least 2 to 3 episodes every season of the Adventures of Win and Monel because that was so much fun. How he just charmed him into taking him out the door.
It was so cute.
and
Oh my
and
God.
Win has a friend, that isn't a self-centered xenophobe. I love
That's messed up. So well.
it.
Um. Oh yeah. Sorry. That just that just cracked me up. So since we've seen the phone,
He
that just took me out. Um. Yes, and I love the Adventures of Win and Monel. I think they're great. I love my favorite moment was when they walked into the DO. He was like, "What? Huh? I'm not hungover. You're defensive." I was like, "Sir, they didn't even ask you all that. I'm not defensive. You're defensive." So ridiculous.
Like, when you still drunk, man, that's that kind of hangover where you're actually still tipsy.
Uh, he's the
You still got a lot of
worst.
liquor running
Oh
through
my
your system. Your
God.
PAC is at least at a .10.
Oh my God, he's the worst. I love him so much.
But it was just nice because it makes sense. He's been cooped up since they brought him back, what, 2 episodes ago now?
Hmm.
Of course he's stir crazy. And I like that he didn't just bust his way out. He's like, okay, hey, you want to take me out? This is what you want to do. He almost Jedi mind tricked him into going out. But it was when I get the sense Win needed that too. He needed to cut loose.
Yeah, I don't think people give Win enough credit for everything that he's doing, which I think is also why Monel was like able to appeal to him with the whole like, oh yeah, like you'll get to come up with my super suit and you'll get
Hey,
to
give me a name.
give me a name and like that'll be pretty cool, right? Like, well, I was like, I see you, I see what you're doing, and I appreciate what you're doing.
And it's working.
Yeah, and it's working. Also because Win is like so flipping easy. But
He is starved for it. You know what? I appreciate that they're doing with Win what they didn't do with Pete Ross on Smallville. As you know, I am rewatching Smallville, and I just finished season 3, and it took everything in me not to put my fist through the TV because of how they wrote him out, and how even just how they wrote him. Period. Just yeah. Anyway, side.
I'm sure if I had watched Smallville, I would know these references. Oh,
So
speaking of the other
Pete Ross
person.
was. I'm sorry. Pete Ross was the stereotypical black best friend for Clark.
Oh, okay. I
So think
feel
of
like
that
I
trope, and you know what I'm talking about.
okay. I was like, I feel like I knew that, but I didn't know that. Um, Speaking of Smallville, the other person who I saw at Pop Fest was Justin Hartley, who played Oliver Queen,
Yeah,
Queen Arrow.
really?
Yeah, he introduced Nick Jonas.
What?
Nick Jonas and Janelle Monáe were the headliners for Saturday night, and Justin Hartley introduced Nick Jonas before he came out on
Oh,
stage.
baby, no. But he's on This Is Us. No, baby, no.
I think it was because This Is Us had like a thing the next day, so that was how he participated on Saturday. Um,
Yes.
but Justin, yes. Oh, Nick Jonas's whole band is black, which I thought was hilarious. Like he was the only white person on stage. His
Sounds
whole
about right.
entire black band was black. I was like, what is happening here? Ah,
What happens?
I know.
That is
I
what
was
is
like,
happening. What happens?
but so far he hasn't done the Justin Timberlake, oh you sweet soul. He hasn't done that yet. So
Yeah,
I'm giving
yeah.
I know, and he's on notice. Nick Jonas is on notice. Okay. I don't want to get into the McGann stuff yet. I do want to talk about Maggie. I love Maggie. I
I'm
love
here
her
for Maggie.
so much. I love her so so much. Although that little piece at the end was so TV because I was like, she just let a like suspect go. Her girlfriend would not be showing up to meet her. I think they did that so on purpose so that they would
Especially
have
because they're not going to uncuff the suspect outside of the the
like
precinct.
literally uncuff her. She walks to the limo, chit chat, and then her girlfriend walks up because they were about to go get drinks. You don't know if she had paperwork to finish getting done. Like, like I was like, this is so cinematic right now because this is the only place that this would happen is on television. This is not how real life police work goes. But on the other hand, we're finally getting some actual detective work
Hmm.
that if I love Maggie for nothing else is for the fact that we're getting actual detective work happening.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I feel like I love Kara, but Alex was doing this before Kara started being Supergirl. Like Alex was in the DEO doing this
Hmm.
beforehand. Like Alex knows how to do detective work, and she hasn't really had to do it or
Hmm.
hasn't done it since Kara started being Supergirl.
Well, that's because they've been using. I feel like the DEO became lazy when Supergirl showed up. They're
Mm-hmm.
using Supergirl as kind of a cheat code, and now their skills are rusty and they don't know how to do
Exactly.
nothing.
But it was so nice to see the two of them just like going back and forth. He's like, so I'm gonna already called my contacts on the street. Well, you follow up with, and there's and Supergirl's just like, so how can I help? And they're just like, nah, we got this.
Go talk to Monel about your prom. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
I
Never do that again.
I just love it. And then when they show up their little faux date to the fight club in their cute black dresses, like I was just like, okay, ladies, I see you. By the way, if Kyler was like towering over this
Hello?
girl. Can you hear me?
I lost you for just a second. You started to say Kyler's name, and
Oh,
that's all I heard.
if Kyler was towering over this actress that plays Maggie, she must be tiny because Kyler is not that big.
Yeah.
I was like, she is towering over her in these heels. So I'm gonna put her like at a maybe 5'1", 5'2". Like
Her name's Floriana, right?
I think so. Yeah. Um,
They got her. Okay. Let me see if they show it. Okay, no, she didn't put that online. Hmm.
yeah. A lot of actresses don't put it, but I mean, generally the guys aren't that tall either, so the girls are already pretty tiny. Um,
Okay, so Kyler's 5'6".
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And she was towering over her in those heels.
Yeah.
They're so cute together, by the way, so I totally can't wait for them to date.
Well, but I laughed at how she curved it.
Oh, curved her hard, curved her so hard, but I think she thinks that she's not lesbian or not bisexual.
Interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm ready for it. Yes, love it.
Or she might think that she's just doing the whole curiosity thing and she's not interested.
True, there is that. There is that. I mean, last season we had her and Maxwell Lord having a little chemistry. This season, I'm happy to see her have this chemistry with Maggie as well. I would love for it to happen. I know shippers and shipping and all that can be kind of crazy, especially in today's modern day world of the
Oh.
internet. But I would be here for it. I think it would be cute. I like my ships. I'm not obsessive about my ships, but I enjoy my relationships in shows. So
You're not developing Tumblr pages dedicated to the ships and attacking
um
anyone who has
I'm not
issues
gonna
with the
say
ship.
I don't have dedicated Tumblr pages to certain ships. I'm not gonna say I don't, because that would be a lie.
Yeah, but you don't do it like a crazy person.
No, I
Is
just
what I'm
reblog
saying.
things, occasionally put my opinions. That's about it. Um,
Like I said, not like a crazy person.
You
Or you're
know,
creating whole
and
dedicated
the
forums
thing about it
because someone said
too,
something about your ship.
yes. Well, the thing about it too is that what is so tricky now about especially when you're talking about ships between two women is because there is that whole kill your gays trope.
Yeah.
That specifically happens more often with lesbian characters. So
Yeah.
it's like it's this catch 22 now of like if you do start a relationship between two female characters, kind of becomes automatically iconic because there's so little representation. And it's
Hmm.
like I do feel number one that a lot of times because of that bisexual characters get erased because if a girl starts dating another girl, it's like, oh, she's a lesbian. And then if you have her date a guy, it's like, oh my God, why would you destroy this like lesbian relationship just for this like hetero relationship? And it's like, no, that's what bisexualism is. It's like you like both equally. Like so
That's
you
how
can
it
go yeah, so you
works.
can go back and forth between the two. And then if either partner gets killed for whatever story reason or dramatic reason, then it becomes, oh, you're like falling into this trope of like being like killing off lesbians. Because usually it's almost kind of done in this way. It's like being a lesbian isn't good, so someone has to die or suffer.
Mm.
So it and I like representation of that sort of having same sex couples, having lesbian couples, having bisexual characters, but it's become almost this like minefield
Mhm.
because of how it's being used in the past.
Yeah.
So I would love to see it. I just don't want it to become a thing. Like, like I like the chemistry that these two actresses have, and I would love to see them like their characters date. I just don't want it to become like, and now Alex can't ever date anybody else because her and Maggie are a lesbian couple and they represent all lesbians.
Yeah, you almost can't win for losing.
Exactly. Um, so now that we've talked about all the ways that can go wrong, let's move on to John and McGann. Um,
So can I just start with this so we can get this out the way and then really talk about what this was about? I was watching online where people were like, "Oh my gosh, is he hitting on her?" And, "Oh, is this the version of Go Get Coffee?" Stop. Stop. You weren't listening. Some of these were jokes, but I saw some people seriously asking that question because I was looking at both Twitter and some of the Facebook groups I'm in. It was mostly on Twitter. I'm like, y'all stop. Just because it's two black people and just because they're talking about a deep emotional connection does not automatically equal in a few episodes they're going to be tonguing each other down. He explained very clearly that the way Martians communicate and interact with one another is on this deep emotional, spiritual, mentally linked level. That
mhm.
is what he was talking about. He was not trying to get coffee with her. He was not trying to Netflix and chill with her. So stop.
Yes.
Now that that's out of the way, now that we've established that, I loved this story
Yeah.
because he was, oh my God, David Harewood played this so perfectly because you could just see how vulnerable he was and how starved he was to reconnect,
Mhm.
to realize after 300 plus years he wasn't alone, or so he thought.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to reach through the screen and hug him like, oh, baby, it's okay. He just David Harewood played that so perfectly. I loved it. I loved it.
What I really liked about it is that whole scene when, like you said, where he's explaining what the connection is, and he's basically like, there's no ego, there's no lies. And the
Hmm.
way he said that was just so like, he is so, you can just tell that John is just so sick of the bullshit. Like he's so sick of like having to lie about who he is for 15 years, having to, tiptoe basically around humans and all of their feelings and all of their, fears. And I think even with his relationship with Kara and Alex, he really cares for them. But, there's always like a lie or a half truth, or somebody's keeping something from someone for their own good, and you can just tell like he's just so sick of it. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like his people were peaceful. His people were
Mm-hmm.
peaceful and connected to each other, and basically ever since the White Martians came, it's just been nothing but like death, lies, and fear
And loneliness,
and
just this
loneliness.
deep loneliness.
And
There's no one for him to be connected to in that way.
it's just, I like, that's what I took out of it. I was just like, he is just tired. Like, he is a weary black man. That is what
Mm-hmm.
he is. And he is just like, I am done. And then he was like, oh, I can connect to this person. And like, she's rejecting him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, yeah, he played it so well because you can just tell it's just painful for him. And I, I think David Harewood he's one of those instances, he's like a Jesse L. Martin, where it's like, you guys lucked out so hard and you don't even know how
Mm-hmm.
hard you lucked out.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like now they know, or now they have the opportunity to really showcase what his acting skill is. And I don't know if part of it is, I don't know. I think part of it is the move to the CW. I think part of it is also moving away from this need to build up Kara and
Mm-hmm.
really building up the characters around her.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it was interesting too because within their first interaction, I don't know about you, I feel like she made it very clear, not deliberately, but I felt like it was very clear that she was the white Martian who quote unquote helped her escape was
Oh,
herself.
oh yeah. No, I was like, oh, so she's that Nazi guard on the strain who
Hmm.
like never wanted to be a Nazi.
Well, and plus, the way she was describing it, I was like, it's very other. It's clear she's the white Martian. Well, the prisoners and how they would make them fight instead of they would make us fight. It
Hmm.
was just very clear that she was not a Green Martian.
Oh
And
yeah.
for anyone who's watched Young Justice, you would know that too. Sorry. We talked about Young Justice before, so I don't feel so bad. So I get why she didn't want to do the mind meld because that would make that very clear very quickly.
Yeah.
But just watching, her pain in terms of her survival and what, seeing her at first, I was like, oh, they grabbed him again. And then it hit me. I was like, no, she's doing this to herself,
Hmm.
almost as penance. And when he has that conversation with her during the death match that they won't go through with, or she's about to go through with, and he's like, I forgive you. I wanted to cry because you could just see that he's right. She was doing this to punish herself for surviving, but he doesn't realize she's doing it to punish herself, not only for surviving, but probably for the role she played in this genocide.
Hmm. Yeah. It's because it is that she, I know I made a joke about Nazis, but it is that story. It's that like, you're the Nazi person who like got away, or like wasn't really into it in the first place, got away. And like, I am, if I'm not mistaken, like some of them who immigrated did pass themselves off as essentially like refugees, like people who,
Yeah.
who were on the other side of that conflict. Um, or folks who abstain, like I was never a part of it, blah, blah, blah. So it's like she's not just trying to, it's not just survivor's guilt. She's trying to atone, essentially. Which I thought was interesting because she's in this fight club, right? but she's not losing, she's winning.
Hmm.
So that was kind of weird to me because it's like I also cover Lucifer, and that was pretty much the theme of last night's episode of Lucifer as well, as like this need, feeling like you need to be punished. Um, and he was basically like acting out, hoping that somebody would punish him for acting out because they couldn't punish him for what he had actually done. Um, but she doesn't. It's weird. It doesn't seem like she wanted to be punished. Like it seemed like she, I don't know, was doing something horrible to show that she wasn't perfect. I could, yeah. It was a little weird to me, like why she was doing the Fight Club.
Yeah. It's like she wants to survive, but I don't know. Maybe that'll get explained later on.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Um.
I don't think we've left that thread. I don't think this is neatly tied up in terms of her being over that survivor's guilt or that perpetrator's guilt, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah. Um. The Fight Club, the whole concept, the whole villain of the week, Roulette.
Mhm.
I absolutely loved. I loved her, the whole style of her with the red dress, with the tattoos, and just the, I'm too rich, I can't be bothered.
Mhm.
I loved the whole thing. I want more villains like Roulette.
Mhm. Oh, let me tell you something. I'm obsessed with that tattoo because I got the, and maybe it was a series of tattoos, but for a minute I got the sense that it started up her left leg and ended at her shoulder. Like there was the
Mm-hmm.
one on her arm, but that one, the tail on her leg and the head on her shoulder were connected. And all I could think is like, okay, I'm done having kids. Can I? So I don't have to worry about the stretchy thing as much. Can I pay someone to do that? And then I'm like, okay, so maybe I just do the leg one.
No, she looked absolutely, no, she looked
Oh, that
absolutely
tattoo was
amazing.
sweet. Yes, she did. And people were joking like she only got one outfit. I'm like, Sister Girl only needed one outfit.
No, I'm looking at her Wikipedia page right now, and they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. Like if you look at the comic drawings of her,
Hmm.
like almost exactly like what Dyken looked like in that episode. She looks so nice. I apparently she was also on Smallville, played by a different actress. Um,
I haven't gotten to that season yet.
yeah, yeah, she's oh, she was Asian in that version as well. So that's okay. I didn't like the character doesn't look Asian, but apparently is. Um, like
Yeah, she's got the characters on her face. I'm looking
yeah,
at it now. Yeah, I see it. I think for me it popped more because it was black as opposed to the green and red
yeah,
that's on the cartoon version.
yeah. No, it was perfect for like Tyken fits so perfectly into this character. So like I'm just like looking at it and I'm like, oh my god, like it looks like Tyken. Um, so I want more villains like this, especially we both watched The Flash. I
Hmm.
liked Top. I like that actress that played her.
Hmm.
For some reason, the styling was off a little bit with her and with Mirror Master. Like Mirror
Hmm.
Master's pants were a little too short and not fitted very well. Her outfits weren't fitted very well. They strained across her like boobs. Like it seemed like they got her
Yeah.
size wrong or something like that.
But I got the
So
sense that that was just those two because we were
yeah,
talking in the one group about his medium outfit, and I know that Nina was joking about his winking ankles, but I'm talking about the fact that it looked like that button on the suit jacket was holding on for dear life.
yeah, like I don't know what was going on. I don't know if it was like a bad week for the costume department. I don't know. Maybe they had these two like episodes going on simultaneously and Dyken just got more of the budget. I don't know what happened because I thought she looked amazing and I was it's hard to not compare the shows because they come on like back to back, like night after night. But
Hmm.
I definitely think that like the Supergirl villains have been looking better and better. Especially because I think the Supergirl villains are harder to recreate because they are often aliens and they are often, so otherworldly.
Hmm.
So I think they've been doing a good job. Like the other week when we had the guys who had the kryptonite coming out of their chest, like it looks weird um on television, but then when I looked at the comic book version of those characters, I was like, yeah, that is the best television interpretation because they have the same exact things. Those like big old kryptonite cores in their chest. I was like, that is the best way you're going to bring that to life on TV.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I really liked
But
it.
and yeah, I hope we see more of her. I
Hmm.
really do.
Oh yeah,
Because
she's definitely one of those I love because that's what happens on superhero stuff where like you're like we foiled the criminal and then like the criminal is like walking away like 2 seconds later and you're like we've solved nothing.
you know nothing, John.
Yeah, it's like and we'll see you again in like 3 weeks when we bring this character back because there's like no reason why. Speaking of characters coming back, haha, I like that segue. Lena Luthor.
Yeah. Who gave Kara open access to her?
Mm-hmm. Let her up anytime. Let her up anytime. So I really appreciate that. I feel like the two things that they've set up from episode one that have been on the slow burn are Lena Luthor and Mon-El. And
Yeah.
I'm loving how they're like handling these two characters. I Lena's clearly like a big bad or will be a big bad.
Well, she has to be because, like I said last week, she's doing the very same thing for the very same reasons as Lex, and she thinks because she puts her own brand of perfume on the shit that it smells better,
Mm.
but it's still shit.
And I I think she's gonna be similar to our like Maxwell Lord, how he was handled last season. I think probably about halfway through this season we'll find out like whatever her ulterior plan is.
Hmm.
Um, but I like it because similarly, like Maxwell Lord was a friend and a foe, and I think she's going to be that for a while, and I like that about her character.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with her American accent. I think she sounds fine.
It was better this week. It was better this week, but that first episode, honey, that brogue was like, I'm Irish. Say something about it.
I really like her a lot. I like that they're using her sparingly for right now. Um, I don't feel like they need to rush anything. Like all of these shows are good when the pace is kind of like happening like very quickly. But the stuff that they have on the back burner, I love the pace that it's going at. I love the Mon-El stuff, um, which they held back on that for like 3 episodes, and we saw him like very little. And now we're getting more of him, and I feel like they're developing him in a way that's really interesting. I'm not. I know most people are gonna go there. I'm not shipping it yet, mainly because Kara's a snob, like you said.
Mm-mm.
So I'm not. I'm all like, you could do better. Like I feel like I've taken sides in this like Kryptonium Daxum like rivalry, and my side is Daxum. Like,
I know. Just because Kara's being such a pill about it.
I don't like snobby people, and it just does come off really snobby. Like it feels like very uninformed, but like very much so like we've formed opinions about you. Um,
You know what it was? I didn't put this in her written review, but when she was telling this whole story about her prom that no one gave a shit about, It felt like those conversations that white people have with people of color when they're trying to relate to their experience. And I put relate in air quotes because what they're really trying to do is minimize the impact of what that person is experiencing by saying, oh, yeah, look at me. Look at how hard I had it, too. And I'm like, oh, God, stop talking, Kara. Stop talking. Oh, my God, stop talking. So that's what it felt like to me.
Well, I don't necessarily think that she was trying to like minimize his experience, but it was like you clearly you well, and we don't know this. He's stuck inside. Like he's not even getting to make the mistakes. He's not even getting to experience the world.
Right.
And so it's like she got to experience and make the mistakes and all the other stuff. Like the point that Roulette made that I thought was really, really good was, or I can't remember, was it was like basically like I think it was Roulette where she was like, I treat, like, I might not be the best, but I don't treat them like prisoners or criminals.
Yep. Yep. And she
Like,
said, and it was before Kara got around to pointing out, well, what about the folks you kidnapped? She's like, they owe me money. But yeah,
exactly.
she said, no, I'm not forcing anyone into this life. They choose to participate. So I got the impression that even the folks she are quote unquote kidnapping are people that chose this life, owe her money, and tried to dip.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
So she's not forcing anybody to do anything really,
Yeah. She's like,
except
no,
pay their debt.
yeah, like you're gonna, yeah, she's like a crime boss,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but I really, it's so true. Like, and it's the same thing, which was why I was happy when they introduced the alien bar,
Hmm.
because before this, it is always every single time we've seen an alien, it's because they're a threat to humanity.
Hmm.
We have barely seen, aliens, the ones who are just like, I'm just trying to keep my head down. I'm just working this 9 to 5 like everybody else. Like, like we have rarely gotten a chance on this show to see those aliens. And it's so weird to me that Kara does automatically place aliens in, like, as threats, like view them as threats. It's like they're doing the same thing you're doing. Like, you're just trying to like go to work and live your life and be a decent person.
Hmm.
But every single time she encounters an alien, there's just so much suspicion. And it's not just Kara, because John Jones does it too. I more understand where his comes from in the sense
Hmm.
that, he was terrorized. And so
Yeah.
his like fear of other aliens, or his like fear of being persecuted, comes from that. It comes
It's
from
a,
like I've experienced like
yeah.
being hunted and killed just because of who I am.
Oh, but backing up to what you were saying, like you didn't think she meant to minimize, neither do the white folks who do that to people of
True,
color.
true.
Not consciously.
Mhm,
They're trying to make themselves feel better about an injustice that they're witnessing by couching it in their own experience to say, see, it's not so bad, it happens to all of us.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah. I'll just leave it there. I'll just leave it there. Oh, did we?
Um.
Oh, real quick before we wrap this one up, I wanted to dial back a couple of episodes because there were a couple of things we didn't touch on that you mentioned when we were talking about it later.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
So
don't
the one
remember those things
thing that
now.
I do. So talking about the fact that, given was, oh well, we already touched on Jeremiah, but the back and forth between Alex and Kara about Clark when Kara was just ready to drop everything and bounce.
Mhm.
And he's like, well, this and that, and he's my family. She's like, did you remember that he also abandoned you with us? That line. That was the one
Yes.
we wanted to touch on a little bit because that was so much shade. And as nasty as Alex could be, I'm like, she ain't wrong. Because he did in the last season. I mean, they changed the intro. The intro with the new footage of Tyler Laughlin Logan. Oh God, I'm sorry,
Oh,
sweet. Keep messing up his name. Tyler as
Hawkland.
Super Hockland. Oh Lord, I done
Yeah.
completely renamed this child. Tyler Hoechlin as Superman. But in last season, it was an image of him ripping the pod that she was in open, and him dressed as Superman. So, like, yeah, he, for as wonderful as he is, and as much as you want to be up under him, he left you here.
Yeah. And didn't necessarily have to. Like,
Oh.
I do think he I think he did the what he thought was best in the sense that, like, oh, I want her to have the regular childhood that I had, because I think so much of Clark's identity and who he is as Superman is tied up in the fact that he was this farm boy. Like, he was raised by this, like, wholesome middle American family. So I think he wanted to give her that. Versus, like, I'm out here saving the world. He's like, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. Like, 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 so I think he wanted to give her that, but then also in doing so, he basically abandoned her.
Yeah.
He gave her no opportunity to, know to have that connection to her home planet, which is also weird because because she wasn't a baby. She was like 13,
Hmm.
like, and technically she's older than him, or she knows more about Krypton than he does. So he could have he could have also learned stuff from her. Like, that would be actually a really interesting concept for, like, a standalone story. Like, what if Supergirl had grown up with Superman?
Hmm.
That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody write that fan fiction.
Well, we
I
get a
oh
version of that in one of the DC movies.
Yeah, it could be like that movie The Professional.
No, no, no. There was a one of the DC animated films showed us that, and he had Diana trying to mentor her as well.
Oh, really? See?
Yeah, yeah. I got to remember which one it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. I'm about to look that up. Lord.
No, that would be awesome. Like, I would love to, like, just see that world, because no, I really imagine it being like The Professional. like like little Supergirl with, like, her little potted plant.
Well, she's a teenager, but she's like 16.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's gonna make me mad. I'll know when I see it. Apocalypse.
Oh, okay. I will look that up.
Superman, Batman, Apocalypse.
You
It was
you
that one.
you've seen, like, all of the animated movies.
Girl,
The problem is they
for
don't
as much
all.
shit as their live films are, their animated films are everything.
No, I love their animated films. The problem is that they're not always all on Netflix. Like, some of them are
Yeah,
only on Amazon,
yeah,
which
yeah.
sucks. Oh, speaking of the animated stuff, I have not watched it yet, but I know there's a new DC Superhero Girls movie that just came out. I think they showed it on Nickelodeon, and it's out on DVD now. It's on my Netflix queue to borrow. And my friend's daughter got the DC Superhero Girls, like, they did like a superhero high yearbook thing. And it's so cute. It has, like, all of the different DC characters um, as teens, and it gives, like, a little backstory on, like, the superlatives. It's done like a yearbook, so it's like most whatever and all of that kind of stuff. And it has, like, the villains and the heroes and all their, like, little relationships with each other. It's like $10 or something like that, because I was looking
Okay.
at her book. She was so excited to show it to me. It's like her, like, mom was meeting us at the park, and she was like, "Tell my mom to bring my superhero yearbook." I was like, "Okay, I'll let her know." And it was actually really, really cute. So for those of you who haven't seen, DC has this new thing, DC Superhero Girls. It's an animated web series, and then they have a couple like feature length movies, and they have a whole line of dolls with it, which I actually also really like the dolls. And Supergirl is one of them. It's like Supergirl, Katana, Wonder Woman, Bumblebee, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn are like the main ones. So, you know, for that 7, 8, 9 year old girl in your life, or a grown woman who collects dolls like me.
Awesome. So what would you rate this?
Um, I'm gonna give it an A.
Okay.
Solid A.
Same. I enjoyed it. But like I said, if Kara continues to be the least interesting or least developed character after 2 seasons, we could run into some problems. It is supposed to be Supergirl.
I think they're developing her. I mean, obviously she's learning. It's similar to like Oliver on Arrow. It's
Hmm.
she like learning, often relearning the same episode, but growing, relearning the same, lesson. Like this season on Arrow, you get a lot of Oliver sometimes having to relearn the same lesson, but something that would have taken him like an entire half season arc to figure out takes him an
Hmm.
episode. I'm okay with that because it shows character growth. I think Kara often learns lessons and has growth as a character. I just think some of the lessons she has to learn, I'm like, really, you don't already know this?
Well, and I don't
Like,
know. I don't even know if it's about the lessons. Maybe it's about the presentation. They still haven't. It's the whole man. I always get this wrong. What is it? The pixie manic dream
manic.
girl.
It starts with manic. It's Manny
Okay,
Pixie, manic pixie dream girl.
that whole thing. I'm just. And I kind of feel bad for the blonde actresses in these universes because they seem to lay that trope at the blonde actresses' feet, and it's like give us a break. Come on, don't do this.
But I don't think she's so manic pixie dream girl. Like when I think manic pixie dream girl, I think because also usually the manic pixie dream girl is similar to the magical Negro. She like she's this girl who is she's different from other girls, and she's going to help our main character, who is a man, learn a lesson about life because she's so effervescent and cool and different from other girls. Like that's the manic pixie dream girl. Like really what Kara is more like she's like
Juvenile.
she's like the quirky like she's quirky. She's the quirky, safe, pretty girl. Like that's what it is. It's like she's not she's really gorgeous when she takes off her glasses, but she's not so gorgeous that she's intimidating, and she's into the things that guys are into, or she,
Hmm.
represents something that they like in order to make her appealing. You know what I'm saying? So like Felicity is similar in that way. It's like, Emily Bettricker's extremely gorgeous. But she's a safe kind of pretty where she's not intimidating to dudes, and she's into computers, and she's really smart. So
Hmm.
that makes her different. It's that kind of a thing. And so I think that
I guess my struggle is I don't know what it is. Then maybe, and I
But
get what you're
I
saying.
I get
I
what you're
get,
saying, because I think it's what makes it hard is those characters are not written for women to appeal to. They're written for men to appeal to.
and I guess when I look at Quirky, you know who I think of when I think of Quirky, Willow. Willow was quirky.
From Buffy?
Buffy, yes, Willow was quirky,
Uh,
and
yeah.
I don't get quirky from what this portrayal is on Supergirl. I get
I don't
flighty.
know if I would. Yeah, she's definitely flighty. I don't, yeah, I don't know if Willow would have been seen as quirky. She was nerdy.
She was, but she was quirky.
I think she was more nerdy than quirky. I know we're like splitting hairs here, but she was more nerdy than quirky.
Okay, so
Quirky is
quirky,
like,
characterized by peculiar or unexpected traits, eccentric, idiosyncratic, unconventional, unorthodox, strange, bizarre, peculiar, odd. Willow was quirky. Kara's not quirky. She's flighty.
yeah, okay.
And I
I
think it
think
goes
I
back, but
think it
it goes
I
back to
think
what you said
is
though. I think
not
that,
as quirky in how TV portrays quirky. You know what I'm saying? Like
and I
TV
think part,
quirky is different than the definition of quirky.
I think it's that, but I also think it's a lack of understanding by the writers of what quirky is.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, I better get out the
I
door.
know we're over here like splitting hairs. But yeah, I give it an A. What do you give it?
I'll give it an A. But like I said, they gotta figure out how to continue to develop the other characters. But you
Hmm.
can do that and not make Kara the most problematic part of the show.
Yeah, I don't think she's problematic. I like when she takes a back seat, which is weird on a show called Supergirl. I don't necessarily I couldn't say the same about like the Flash. Like I don't necessarily like it always when Barry takes a back seat. It's welcome because it doesn't happen that often.
Hmm.
But I always enjoy Barry being a part of the action. Whereas like sometimes like Kara comes in and I'm like, we could go back to that scene with John, or like I could have more of the villain this week and be perfectly happy. Like, and I think that's the difference. I think I like I like when they develop the side characters, but I don't think you should kind of groan a little when your main character is the focus.
Yeah,
Like that's not a good sign.
yeah, not at all.
Yeah. All right. So that is all for this week. I feel like we throw so much extra stuff in there. But I really enjoyed this episode. I'm happy that we're going to have more Jimmy next week because I'm always happy to have more Jimmy. I really like him. I need them to develop him more too, and develop him now. Since you have forced this breakup that came out of nowhere, then I want them to develop him as a character outside of his relationship to Kara.
I think you're going to be pleased with next week then.
Okay, we shall see. We shall see. Um, Next week there, this show might come out a little bit later. I'm just being realistic. I have tickets to a concert next Monday night. I don't know why it's on a Monday night. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We do tend to record these early on Tuesday. So if you have like feedback or anything, you probably want to send that right away. Otherwise, if you have something that you like write like on the Facebook wall or and you want us to like actually like read it on the podcast, just like say that and we'll like read it the next week if we don't get it in. Thank you guys for listening and we will see you next week.
Have a great day.